Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the October 14th Planning Commission meeting. We are starting our meeting at 5:32 p.m. For the audience, please make sure you A, signed in the back, and B, silence your phones as a courtesy. And Kent, we're going to start tonight's meeting with the pledge of allegiance.
Repeat with me, pledge allegiance to the United States of America. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Next on the agenda is the declaration of conflicts of interest or any ex parte contacts on any item on our agenda for tonight. Howard?
Yeah, I know that a rezone is not administrative, but I did have a conversation with Ken Cornelius about the rezone that's on the agenda somewhere. And he explained briefly what the work there was about and what he understood the plan to be. And I told him that in view of the concerns that came up in the hearing, that we wanted our engineer to go take a look, and he said that'd be fine. So I guess that happened, and that's my declaration.
All right, Kent?
No.
Darlene, go. Larry? Karen?
No.
Thank you. The next item is review and approval of minutes, and I don't know about anyone else, but I have not had a chance to fully review them. Any other comments on that?
I didn't know where they were, I guess.
Yeah, so we'll just move that to next, and we'll approve both this month and last month's agendas at the next meeting. And at this time, it's open forum for the public. And at this time, we have about 3 minutes to come to our mic and speak on any topic not on the agenda. Is there anybody who would like to do that? Yes,
Money runs, just a reminder, power's going off tonight at 11,
that is correct, 11 to 5 a.m.
in case anybody didn't get the notice.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's hope our meeting goes before that.
Before 11.
There, I'll fall asleep right there.
All right, any other comments? All right. And next are commissioner comments. Does any commissioner have a comment? Cameron?
Yeah, and just if I have to leave, it'll be either I'm called to work or I have to go pick up my boy who's tracking.
Thank you. I don't have any at this time.
I have a comment.
Sure.
We do a lot of hard work and have passed a lot of good things. I wanted to pass something on to you about a comment that has come to me concerning the lighting ordinance that we passed. And it was a comment about if I thought about the millions of people whose lives are affected by this as they travel through our town and our canyon and come here to see the dark sky. And he said, he's indigenous, he's one of the people. And he said, do you understand that we believe that the light from the stars that's been traveling for millions of years is something not just to behold, but it's to hold. That it blesses us with wisdom and it blesses us with safety and health. And so it was interesting as I thought about that for the work that we've done and the support that you've all given. And I think I say everybody, I just don't run into people that don't care about this issue. And millions of people that will continue to be able to benefit from it as the years go on. And we progress and we grow and the visitation to our parks grow and the interest in dark sky. So I want to congratulate all of you and everybody that's worked on that.
Thank you.
Yes, we're working so hard on this.
Spearheading that. Lee, do you have any comments?
No, I guess not.
Okay. And then, as is our routine, I give a brief summary of each item on public hearing. The first item, is an ordinance that is from town council and is intended to ensure timeliness in ordinances being sent to town council for either approval or denial. The second item is, the village overlay, including two-family dwellings, and this latest version, this has been up for public hearing before, is this latest version of the ordinance intended to provide for somewhat more affordable housing, imposing a buffer area between commercial and residential uses is called the village overlay. Creates a transition area wherever commercial or resort zoning adjoins single-family residential zones. In this final version, the proposed buffer covers 150 feet on residential abutting sides of parcels, which are perpendicular to SR 9. And also remaining parcel areas beyond the code's limited depth for commercial and highway resort uses. For these commercial parcels abut existing single-family development, only residential uses such as duplexes and small homes are allowed in the buffer. For the commercial parcels that abut undeveloped residential property, certain low-impact neighborhood commercial type uses are also allowed, with strict limits to protect future neighborhoods. This will provide some reliability to the surrounding zoning for people who are considering building and or buying homes. Although commercial landowners may have slightly fewer uses to choose from when developing certain vacant lands, there is also a great advantage for them. All other zones requires minimum lot sizes of 1 acre or more. Half-acre lots are allowed in the overlay for uses that have measurably small septic impacts. That, the main author of that was, Louis. And then we have another two-family dwelling ordinance. And, its author is Karen. And, this will amend our land use, to add a definition of two-family dwellings and to allow the construction and use of two-family dwellings, in the commercial zone. And add standard for the use in chapter 16. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Just to clarify, it doesn't add any standards for their use in chapter 16, it puts those standards within the zone that they're authorized in, chapter 16.
Okay,
Nothing in my ordinance references chapter 16.
it was in the title, yeah, I'll double check, okay? Okay. All right, and the last item is a conditional use permit, and this project is a motel that consists of 20 geodesic domes for nightly rental. It would be located on the Mesa Road north of Highway 9. And with that overview of the items for public hearing, I will take a motion. Is there a motion to close the public meeting and open the public hearing?
So moved.
Was that what you have?
Yes.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. So, with that in mind. The first item is an ordinance amending Title 16, Chapter 4, Section 2. To allow town council to consider planning commission's failure to make a timely recommendation as a negative recommendation pursuant to state code and to retrieve untimely ordinances from planning commission. We discussed this at our work meeting, and basically the ordinance states that when it comes from like this ordinance, which is written from the town council to us, we have 2 months to make a decision and get it back to them. If it originates with us, I believe it is 4 months, 3 months.
Not originates with us, but
Oh, if it comes
they
in,
have asked us
if they
to.
have asked us to write it, yeah. If it originates with us, there is no final information, correct, okay? And we did discuss this in our work meeting. Does anyone have anything to add to that? Final question?
This is public hearing, right? So the public.
Yes, yeah. Yeah. That's right. Okay. Okay, so is there anyone in the audience who'd like to address this issue?
Hi, my name is Tom Lacoste, and I support this ordinance 100%. I wish it was in place 14 months ago. Larry can relate to that. I have a couple of suggestions on it. And it doesn't have line numbers, so if I could refer you to the second page, where it says after adoption, and the word sentence starts with pursuant to. The word may is a pretty soft word for an ordinance, and I would like it to be something that has the word shall. There's a big difference between shall and may in an ordinance. My suggestion is that after the code reference ending in 2C, the following be said. Barring unforeseen circumstances, the town council shall consider it. I like to stop for this or whatever. It's pretty important what it allows for is, in other words, if something comes up, but an unforeseen circumstance, which can happen, you may not have a quorum for a while or whatever. Then you shall have it. There's another suggestion I have, and I like to take credit for it, but it's Cameron's. And he suggested that there be language on the 4-month count, language that basically request an approval for an extension. So in addition to this one, I would recommend something to the extent that where it says at the end of under timely, or a second sentence where it says commission to create and draft the ordinance. I would suggest comma, in the absence of an approved extension, comma, no more than 4 months. I'd like to take credit for those, but that's pretty much what Cameron, I think, was recommending is the request to, if you need more time, something comes up, then you have an extension to do it, so you're not locked into that form. So those are my thoughts on it. I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? And item number 2 is an ordinance amending the Virgin Municipal Code, Title 16, by adding Chapter 42, Village Overlay Zones, adopting standards for limited two-family dwellings into Chapter 8, and adding language to commercial and higher resort zones in reference to the village overlay.
Can we see the village overlay? Is there like a map or something?
So,
Because I don't understand, so.
okay. I can do it if you want, would like to as the operator, that would be fine.
I was just wondering if we were supposed to go into long explanations during a hearing, but,
Yeah,
there's a,
Well, it's for public comment, right? So
correct.
there was.
So-
in the, well, there's, the whole thing is in, the meeting packet, yes.
Oh, I went online and it didn't show it.
Oh, it is.
I did online, it didn't have a PDF that showed the,
Oh,
It's a separate site, sorry.
okay. Didn't,
There was no map, and there was an ordinance, correct?
there wasn't a PDF. Normally, you know, a zone change is gonna take place. It's like, here's
This
the
is
map.
not, this is not a zone change.
it's not, no change.
But it's a zone, it's a village
It's an
zone.
overlay, there's no map because
It's on commercial.
it's,
Oh, okay, so those are existing commercial.
Correct.
it's
Okay.
essentially
Okay,
a buffer in commercial.
Okay.
And
I'm
highway.
getting it. Thank you for saying that. That's why they're gonna map. Look at it.
Yeah, that,
Thank you.
No, that's fine. It's a good question. Anything else?
Good afternoon, Chuck Master, K&K Family. I had a chance to skim through this, kind of thick, so it's quite a bit of reading and a lot of work to put together, I'm sure, so thank you for that. It does, throw several red flags to me, and if I'm misinterpreting this, please correct me. It says that a location within 150 feet of residential on commercial has to use this zone, it's mandated. Required. What if the zone? Sorry, what if the commercial? Partial zone commercial with frontage on SR9 and is only 150 feet deep. From what this ordinance says, that means a standard commercial use is prohibited right on the highway. That makes no sense to me. There's a lot of people that have property in this town, not just us, and that significantly devalues their property. So if you want to talk about property values, that kind of kills me. Village overlay zone should be available as a land use, but should not be mandated. It's great that it's here, that it's available, and if somebody desires to work with the town and do that, that's great. But we already have substantial setbacks, places buffers between commercial and residential. So this to me just feels like we're taking more and more from landowners that have worked really hard. My statement is this commission should substantially edit this ordinance to make it more manageable for landowners to work with the town and build desirable businesses. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
It's Tom Cost again, and, bear with me for 1 second. This ordinance, stems from an ordinance that was requested by the town council on August 20th, 2024. It was a step down ordinance request, and I'm going to read the request if I could. It said, to refer to planning and zoning, whether to create a new use in commercial zone for a duplex or long-term rental only, and such accompanying regulations. That's it. This is a spin-off from it. On March 11th, you can look it up, was the first draft of this ordinance. It was pretty prohibitive, but they got it right in the title. The title on March 11th basically said the following. An ordinance amending the Birchtown Uniform Land Use Ordinance to define two-family home, to allow the construction and use of two-family homes in the commercial zone, and to create standards for the use in VULU Chapter 8. The title matches the intent of the request. This ordinance that we're looking at today is a far cry from that. It started off March 11th with the right title. But, and it even had in it, if you look at it, you can look it up on the internet, March 11th. It even had in it the list before and after of permitted and conditional uses in that ordinance. Subsequent to that, we have an ordinance now that is moving away from anything being permitted. This list just disappeared and has been changed into an effort to eliminate all but a few permitted uses and make them conditional. That is a fact, and it's in this document. The other thing that has been added to this document, if you look at the title of it, it basically, it does not refer, it starts with village overlay zones. So what has happened is, and I've seen these meetings, I've been watching you guys diligently trying to, help the hurdles from, to minimize the obstacles to getting a duplex in Virgin, period. And I basically have, observed the, not only the hurdles, for example, everything becomes conditional, but this village overlay has been thrown in as talk about an obstacle with restrictions and zones and whatever. And it is, the ordinance that the town asked for is secondary to this. And incidentally, a couple of weeks ago, the mayor put on the agenda, I think it was the 9th or so, she put on the agenda, but she was not getting a response back from the town. The ordinance, what are we gonna do about Tom Lacasa's ordinance? And they had this ordinance that is now on the table here. And you do well to look at the discussion that they had on that one. Because quite frankly, I called it other things in writing to them formally because of the delays, but it's become, well, I called it a convoluted mess in writing to the town to get this thing moving. This is after 12 months of waiting, okay? Can you get it off the dime, I asked them. And they basically, didn't call it something a little different, but the bottom line is, what they said, this is in effect 3 ordinances. This is in effect 3 different ordinances. That's coming from the town council. They were as confused as can be looking at this ordinance because it cross-references things and it's just confusing. And I'm giving you a preview of what they already felt when they saw this. They heard that they had just received Cameron's alternate ordinance, which the chair asked Cameron to do after about about 9 months or so of going back and forth and these obstacles being added. The chair said, Cameron, would you like to write an alternate? And he said, yes. And you have his alternate, which is the next item on the agenda. And I basically, well, obviously I should start by saying I oppose this ordinance. It has obstacles in it, but there are a couple of lines that I'm not real clear on. And one of them is line 337, if you could refer to that line. It makes reference to, and I'm sure I'm misunderstanding this one, because the original one basically requires you to get a building permit for a conditional use or whatever. Line 337 says, imagine you build a duplex, you have a duplex, you have it rented, you have people living in it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Permission, if granted, no renewals are required unless and until ownership has changed. Is that, I have to ask, is that true? My request to the town council, my commitment to the town council was it would remain long-term rental in perpetuity recorded with my deed. Okay, no conditional use, it's a permitted use, period. That's it. And no, am I correct? I have to ask that question, Lee, for somebody, I know this is a one-way deal, but I can't imagine having a house, a rental unit, you have people living there, it's their home, under contract, and the ownership changes, they have to go back and get it a permit again. How did that, am I wrong on that? I'm serious, that's critical. Because this slipped in, it was not highlighted, it was not underlined, it's just there. And unfortunately, you gotta read every word on some of these. But I just wanted to, I'm not asking for an answer on that, I'm just saying, that one,
If the ownership changes, the new owner has to come to town and get the permit and
thank you. You confirmed it. Insane, I'm sorry, it's totally, unrealistic. It's unrealistic, and the incentive, the language in here, especially when you look at line 42. It basically has gone from, well, we don't really, Virgin doesn't like duplexes, whatever. It basically has a word in here, it says, they will be welcome now. There are more obstacles to doing this rather than accepted, they're welcome. There are more obstacles to doing this in terms of the cost, in terms of the idea of having to put, there are 3 different types of septic systems. An approved independent septic system is what I have, graded and done. However, there's another one called a private section, private, and then there's the public one. The private one is now servicing. That's the one where if you're building a motel or something like that, Cameron can speak more to this one, but Paul mentioned it the other day when you were talking about it. It's to say we'll approve a duplex if you have a private septic system. We're talking 30, possibly $60,000 for a private septic system for a duplex, for a house, period. That's language is in here. You can do it if you get a private septic system. I hope I'm wrong, I'm not an expert, but the whole septic issue is basically one of the major issues here on this one. So that's, see if I covered everything. Yeah, I think the overlay is the biggest obstacle, and my recommendation is to, as I mentioned, the first time the village overlay was discussed a long time ago, I was embarrassed at the end of it. Paul gave me some praise for it. But I spoke extensively to what a village overlay really is. It's to protect certain areas of certain things. It's not to create a buffer, as you clearly say. This is simply creating a buffer from residential to commercial, a bigger buffer from residential to commercial. And I would like, and Riker has been mentioned a number of times as the person who is telling us to do this. I would love Riker Staglitch to stand here and answer some questions about that, because he is cited as doing this. And I would personally like to ask Riker if parcel number V-2-1-21-2107, which is my parcel, even though we're an acre with the village overlay, would I be able to do my duplex or not? And I asked this one as a question, as I'm gonna ask on the other one when we get to it. Can I continue my project, which I've already put $10,000 into it? Can I continue to build my duplex the way this ordinance is written? And I will probably get a yes, but, and these are the buts, and you know, we'll say it. Yes, but, because Cameron's had it here a lot of times. I'm sorry, Cameron, appreciate all of your, and you, Larry, back and forth on it. It said, I think I made my point on it. And I've spent 14 months on it. That's why I'm so supportive of the new ordinance for future people. The last thing on this one is I'm talking about mine, but every time I've talked about this before, excuse me, I talked about, this was the town council's goal, was to have a pathway, and Misty said it again a couple weeks ago, to have a pathway for affordable housing in Virgin, a pathway. This was a to create this duplex, put it in commercial. Commercial allows more density than rural residential or residential, put it in commercial. And let's open the door, create a path for others. And all the other times I talked about this, I said, this is not about mine. This is about creating a pathway for others. I see nothing in this ordinance that encourages or incentivizes people to build a duplex. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other public comments on this item? The fourth item is third item. I wrote it right by the church. An ordinance amending the Virgin Uniform Land Use Ordinance to define two-family dwelling to allow the construction. I want to read from this exact title. Cameron, you said there was a difference. I want to be sure. It's not right. An ordinance amending the Virgin Uniform Land Use Ordinance to define two-family dwelling, to allow the construction and use of two-family dwellings in the commercial zone, and to create standards for the use in lieu of chapter 16. Sam, are there any comments on this ordinance?
No, it's all you did.
I think we're finally approaching the time where this will get to the town council. My name is Tom Lacoste, and I support this ordinance. This is the draft ordinance I referenced a little while ago that was requested by the chair and Cameron put it together. I have a couple of questions on this one, but the same thing, would say the same thing as I prefaced the other one. And that is that this ties directly to the specific and only request by the town council. When they approved that, and Paul made the motion, he said, Tom, it's about that, needs about that much paper, just a couple of lines, the attorney can do it. And this is it. The one you just looked at is a 12-page document, multifaceted, which 12 pages if you exclude the signature page. This one is 2 pages, including the signature page. Has the same heading that you use on the March 11th ordinance, and as Cameron said, I hope you don't mind, Cameron, I watch those meetings a lot on YouTube. If I misspeak, you tell me I'm wrong. But he said he padded it after that one, started it after that one. It's very clear. It's very clear and very precise. And I have a couple questions on it. One of them, if I could, I think it addresses the town's interest, and it goes far enough. First of all, on line 76, there's a typo on line 52. This is a small typo. To live after the word to. After the word of families, I think you want to put a period there. Line 76 of the A, it says 4,800 feet, and there was a little question as to where the current one is. I think it's 3,000 feet. And I looked at it, and if you look on the internet on the March 11th draft, the one that I referenced, the original one is 4,800 feet. So I think you had a question on that in the work meeting. It is consistent with the original one. The one that you have that I just talked about is less 3,000, just a clarification on that one. The use of single culinary, I have some concerns about that. That's been discussed. Do what we have to do on it, but I remember when we talked about it at the town council, they talked at length about having 2 meters for a house. I know it can be done mechanically or whatever, but a duplex without 2 meters makes it a little difficult from a landlord's perspective. I called John Porter from the fire district, who was working with me on this one, and I asked him about, can we, I was going, how do we do a single meter or 2 meter? Oh, single meter, because that's what we're looking at after this went up. And he said, before I finish my sentence, he said, Tom, I don't think you'll see a duplex in Hurricane that does not have 2 meters. He was quick to say, I'm not speaking for the town of Virgin, very quickly qualified it, as he's not speaking it, but he actually, finished my sentence before I finished but it can be done, and Cameron knows it can be done. Logistically, it can be done, but I would like you to consider the possibility of 2 meters. When this was discussed on August 15th, town council, I remember there was a lot of discussion about that, and back and forth, and the mayor said, we gotta have 2 meters. How do you know what one tenant is doing and not doing and whatever in terms of that? Now, again, technology may take care of it, but I'm going to build mine with the ability to put 2 meters down the road and probably run a T or something like that to do it. We talked about the end of 2 different families living in a place, and there could be a possibility of disruption or whatever. I know Cameron's looking at me because right now that can all be mitigated, if I'm not mistaken, got it, okay. Not technically a camera, maybe I'm old fashioned, but anyway, that would be nice. And the requirement to maintain an active business license, I mentioned that, Cameron. I'm not gonna lose any sleep over it, but quite honestly, I'm a landlord. And I have tenants right there, it's not a business. I worry about renewing things with the town of Virgin, quite frankly. Business license something might require to go for a permit or something, but I took a little issue with that one. Other than that, I had a question. And I asked Cameron the question, I think I just asked the question here on the previous one. Without knowing all the fine details, I said, Cameron, can I continue with my duplex project with this ordinance? He said, yes. I was happy to hear that. That's a green light, I can proceed. And that's important, and others also will proceed with this simple ordinance. It will incentivize rather than not incentivize. So that's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Chuck Matzler again, same thing, if I'm misinterpreting this, please let me know. I am happy to see that we're bringing some, affordable housing for our youth in town, I'm over the moon about that, if hopefully this can happen. I just saw a couple of notes that I'd like to make. Section 3, item D. I don't know if this was considered when it was written, but it says that you can have a 2,000 gallons, septic tank, which is 6 bedrooms, which is reasonable, you know, 2, 3 bedroom units. But maybe should it say or sewer connection if available at the time building permit is applied for? That way somebody doesn't misinterpret and say that you have to have something. I'm just wondering about that. And then section 3 item C, kind of same thing Tom said, but a little bit differently worded. It should have 2 water meters. From what I understand, that's standard. If I'm the owner of a 2-family dwelling, I need to know how much water each unit tenant is using, so they can pay any overage that they have. In a scenario, say I have a 2-family unit, and I live in one half while renting out the other. If my tenant has overage to pay, I have no way to prove it so that they can pay their fair share. So that kind of makes sense. I would say that it's 1 dwelling, but it's 2 residences, so 2 meters. And lastly, in having affordable housing, having multiple units save a ton of money on building. You have your permanent impact fees, you save on shared walls, your buying power for all your building materials, and your fixtures, your toilets, appliances, all that stuff. So you have more buying power when you can build. Instead of 1 or 4 instead of 2, whatever. So I'm in favor of this, that's my answer. Thank you.
I don't believe we had any emails or communications, I just want to double check. Okay. Thank you. All right. And that 4th item is the conditional use permit for Unplugged. And we do have a letter from Monty. Les, did you want us? I believe we've all had a chance to look at it. Did you want to add or build on that or underscore anything?
Right up there, behind you. So we gave, Bonnie and I, we're the house next door. So, and we support this project with, with the accommodations that we've made for Brody. If you look at the setbacks, the top is the north. We allowed a 20-foot setback per that site plan, and it has to be that exact site plan. And then in the front, where the driveway comes in, we allowed a 10-foot setback, because what that actually does is traffic comes in and turns left, that keeps lights right up against the fence, which keeps it from trespass. You know, it actually made sense to do that. And that Rose put the parking, where we wouldn't, you know, no lights would go shining directly into, our residential property. So that right there is it. So, if it's exactly like that, the setback accommodations, which are recorded on the deed, are in effect. If it's not like that, they're null and void. So, and that's in the language that we have for that. So embodying and support the project, we think, done properly, that it can be, you know, that's a valuable corner up there. You know, I mean, it could be, you know, Lynn's or something on one of those corners, someday, who knows, I don't know, you know, what that'll work out to. But for us, that's a minimally impact, commercial use. You know, Brody likes it because we've got a neat boutique Western property next door. So kind of, it's a symbiotic relationship, you know, he kind of knows what he's getting. We get that weird, rare opportunity to choose any of our homes. So that's the way that we're looking at this. So, we appreciate your time. Thank you for taking the time to read that. There's a few people I haven't seen here in a long, long time. I apologize. That's my fault. I should be more reaching out and stuff like that. It's not like I don't know where Cameron works. But anyways, so, and we do appreciate all the hard work you do, even though we don't hang around for a lot of it. So thanks. Bonnie, do you have anything to say?
No, I do not.
Okay, appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who has commented on this?
Chuck Metzler, sorry, I don't have any notes on this. I'm looking at this and you categorize this as a motel. I wouldn't say that's a motel, I'd say it's a multi-unit lodging. It's, so I just think, and that's not semantics, I would say that's definitively not a hotel.
Well, was
That's okay,
I
I'm
just
just
want to,
making a statement, so.
I just want to clarify, that was the wording on the conditional use permit
Okay.
application.
I would use that, but I would support it if it meets, or exceeds the ordinances that we have, and the next door neighbor supports it. I say, why not?
I support it. This is mine, I'm sorry. 4 thumbs up.
Any other comments?
Thanks for saying.
I move that we close the public hearing and open the public meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, so moving on to the first item on the public meeting is a discussion and possible motion and vote for 6 items. First one being, an ordinance amending the Virgin Towns official zoning map by rezoning parcel B-2-1-22-311 from rural residential zone to commercial zone. Talked about this, at our meeting, last month. And, excuse me, there was a hearing on it, there was a public hearing on it. The town engineer did look at the property. Does any commissioner have any further comments or points of clarification before we take a vote?
So I want to clarify that the issue is to change the zone to commercial.
Correct. Rural
residential.
Um, I know there have been some issues, as I want to discuss this a little bit, concerns by residents of a septic tank issue. And as I looked at the site, it seems like, that isn't so much a zoning issue as it is how do I put this, as a issue on site as development occurs, of making sure that the developer is meeting setbacks, as has the residents that surround it are meeting the setbacks, and that are people who administrators and attorney personnel, town personnel that would be involved in the project would be the ones deciding those things. Ours is this a good site? Does this meet standards of a good site for commercial operation? We don't know what it is. I don't know that that's an issue. I'd like to know kind of like what's been presented with, the motel project on Mesa Road. It's nice to know what's going in, but I don't think that's what's really critical here. Is this an appropriate site for commercial? So that's kind of where I stand on it, and what I'm thinking, if anybody has a comment as to how I think differently, then I'd appreciate that.
Joanne, yeah. I just want to say that I think that's actually a perfect place to have some small retail along the highway. But I am concerned about the effect on the neighbors. And if, for instance, the village overlay was placed, then they would be protected kind of, but, I think that our engineer is actually kind of concerned about it, and I don't know the details of why. But if it's like currently in an unsafe situation, I think something would need to be done about that. Other than that, I mean, I don't see any reason not, for this not to be commercial. Except, that I want to be sure that everybody was aware that there could be a problem with the excavation that's been done there. Either recently or in the past, I guess. And so that any potential buyer would need to know about that, and that if there's something like urgent, according to the engineer, that I think that would need to be done before any use is placed. Not sooner. So that's where I stand. Any other comments?
Could you clarify a little bit, you're saying there's concern about an unsafe condition possibly maybe on the site that you would want, like, I guess, can you elaborate more on that? I'm not quite understanding what that has to do with the zone change.
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
As I said to start off with, I don't really think it has a lot to do with the zone change, but I am concerned that this could go forward and end up becoming a problem for the town instead of for whoever happens to own it when something goes wrong.
Yeah.
So, that's all.
Could you elaborate why you feel that, or why you think that way? Why do you think that the town moving forward with the zone change would put the town in more, in liability danger as compared to if we did.
I didn't say that it would, I just said that I was concerned about it, and that I wanted to make sure that there was disclosure of it, and that it would be dealt with if
Oh,
necessary.
oh, I misunderstood, sorry.
I agree, this is a great spot for some smaller commercial. However, land integrity, road concerns and septic concerns expressed by both the adjoining property owner and our town engineer would need to be looked at before I would feel comfortable voting in favor of this change. MoMA has been put in liability because they allowed some construction, in this case, it was floodplain issues. And people are suing the town. Our town had to pay for some amelioration work on recently rezoned, the swap property. And, I want to make sure the town is protected. And that property owners above is safe and protected as well. And if there's some way to assure that that kind of checking out would be done. But that's what I think.
I can understand that, and I do too. But I think it's beyond our capacity or ability to find closure with that. I think that there are people above us in the town council and city government whose job is to make sure those things are done.
And it's our job to recommend, and this is a legislative decision. So we do have the right to maybe add a petition or something like that.
So can we actually say that we'd like to see this zone change take place and have any say or respect from the town council or from the city as to what we hope or recommend that they be cautious and careful about before they allow anything to be built. I just don't know that we have that. I mean, we have the capacity to ask and say those are our concerns, but it's not our place to ask, say those are our concerns. That's their place.
Well, but our place is to balance the needs of the person requesting the zone change, with the needs of the affected parties around them. So this is an effort to balance that. Now, with the commission's permission, I see that, Mr. Massler had a comment.
I can clear this up real quick, so you won't get on.
Can I say one?
I spoke with Craig, we worked it out, so.
Then
I
there's,
spoke to him right after we talked and had a great discussion, he's my neighbor, he's a family friend. We just did a poor job of communicating with him when we started to sell that dirt. And what's being done on that property right now has nothing to do with it, there's no project plan, so there's nothing to show you. There's several possibilities, you could sell it as one piece, we could develop it, split it in smaller parcels, but at this time, all we're requesting is a zone change, so that we can move to the next step and decide what we want to do. So, thank you. I feel like we've done a pretty good job of explaining.
Can I ask you a question, Jack?
Sure, go ahead.
Is there, any plan to put like a retaining wall?
There will have to be,
Okay,
there will have to be retaining wall, and I've already spoken to Greg about that, and he will work with where we sell it to, they'll recondition. If you have loose, and it's not loose, I went there today, I had 2 massive storms. It's practically a natural retaining wall. It's very rocky. So there's not any chance, let's say never. There is a 1 in a billion chance that any graveyard is gonna slip off of there. And it will be retained, it will be part of any kind of agreement we have with the buyer. And that has to be disclosed if you have loose that is in your seller disclosures when you sell a piece of property.
Correct.
You have to disclose all that, so the buyer's protected. Right now, it's private property, the town did not require any kind of permission for us to sell dirt, nor did we ask permission, we're just selling dirt, it's like, you want a car, and you sell a car, this is my understanding. So, I may be able to explain, that there's no project plan, what's happening on there right now, we should explain better to Gray. There's several partners, one hand didn't tell the other hand what to do, Gray. That's what it comes down to, but we've made, and I understand why he was upset, because we didn't explain to him what was going to happen. So, that helps a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's-
Thank you, Mr. Nuss.
To amend Bridgetown's official zoning map by rezoning parcel B-2-1-22-311 from rural residential to the commercial zone.
Do I have a second?
Just to clarify, the motion is to recommend approval of the adoption of the ordinance.
Yes.
I'll second.
Lee?
Can I make a comment? I just want, council to make sure that, there's not a dangerous situation there. I don't feel at this point that there is, but, I'm going to vote yes.
Yes,
Kent, yes. Darlene, no.
Yes.
Larry, yes.
Cameron, yes.
Thank you. It is recommended for approval. Now we're going to move on to item 2. An ordinance amending Title 16 of the Virginia Municipal Code to amend and number the chapter governing the open space district. This, was discussed in our last meeting. It was a public hearing, previous meeting. I know it's correct. And Lee Ballard is the author of this one. Do you have anything you want to point out?
I just, in regard to Larry's concern about existing uses on the property. Somewhere I added, I mean, it's already true that if there's uses are grandfathered in there, again, but, I wrote that, uses legally existing on the property at the time of passage of this ordinance. So,
Is there a line to that?
I noticed that some of the stuff in the packet wasn't the most recent version, and I think this is one of them. Even though the preliminary is long, I think that this month, I don't know if this has this, it's line
So
82,
I'm looking at,
line 82.
go back into our folder. Over. Open space. Add that when I do.
I think that's the only change, it was on line 80, what is now line 82. Under permitted uses, there is, item D is uses legally existing on the property at the time of passage of this ordinance. Otherwise. Oh, no, that's not, that's old. because a single family dwelling was removed from additional uses.
Can I make a
Oh,
comment?
it's not. Oh, no, that's right. It's other than that. It's right. Oh, that's, it's all right. All right. Fine, okay. Yeah, that's right. Just be very careful about that. Okay, all right.
So I don't have that. Doesn't have land use.
See, I saw somewhere that it was an old version, but I,
Yeah, the one that,
I don't know what it
on
was.
the town website was, doesn't show,
The changes.
Was it from today's packet?
yes, so, definitely, right.
The one that was online.
This time.
So I think this ordinance has undergone enough changes that it probably should be put back up for public hearing.
What were the other changes?
So, single family dwelling was moved from conditional to permitted. It was also changed from single family dwelling to single family dwelling per minimum of 40 acres. I don't think it was listed that way, conditional before, it was just listed as a single family dwelling condition. And it says, and item D was added, this is legally existing on the property. That one probably by itself wouldn't be enough, but with the addition of the single family dwelling being moved and the addition of the minimum of 40 acre parcel. I think you should go back to public hearing.
Can I, point out that the reason that 40 acres there is because originally that was the minimum acreage in this zone. But since we were asked to change that, and I think this one here.
The town, passed this ordinance,
Which
with, they changed it to, we sent it to them 40 acres. They changed it to 10.
But they wanted it, they didn't want that, they wanted, the
Yeah.
concern was that, and then smaller parcels would be,
I'm not,
eligible to rezone to open space.
I'm not arguing the point, I'm just saying it should go back to public hearing.
Okay, I'm just a little confused, because I thought this is the version that went to public hearing, and the only difference is the one that
But the town council made that change.
no, that's the other, okay, there were two ordinances, this is the second one. The first one went through, passed, but they asked us to make these changes. So that's what this one is amending that ordinance, and we did, I believe, have a public hearing on it last time. And I don't think there were any,
The original public hearing did not include permitted use of one single family dwelling per minimum of 40 acre parcel. Line item C and D on 36.6 permitted uses, neither of those appeared on the ordinance that was up for public hearing. Those were both changed at our work meeting.
Single family home was on the, ordinance passed, for public hearing.
but there were
And
two
maybe-
public hearings, one was on the original ordinance, and then there was one for this one, and so maybe you're right, and that wasn't there. I thought it was, because wasn't it just last month we had a public hearing on it?
My concern is what I have in front of me is totally different than what's up there, and this is what was available to the public. Okay.
Yeah, well, I have a phone.
Because this is different totally than that, and if I would have made a motion, that would have been based on what I got from the town's website.
This ordinance that he has was what was put up for public hearing.
Okay, then we have a problem.
And I just pulled it up online again from my phone, and it's what you have in your packet.
I guess the one in SharePoint is right, but the one in the packet is not. Yeah, okay.
It's probably just because there's been more on different versions of this ordinance for different purposes.
Yeah.
So the one in SharePoint will go up for public hearing, yes.
Okay. Then I move that we, table this until next meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Here. Number 3. An ordinance amending the Virgin Municipal Code Title 16, Chapter 16 to make certain currently permitted uses conditional, provide streamlining process for low impact conditional use permits, change titles into sections to include permitted uses, permitted use standards, and amend the conditional use approval process. Right, you wanna go over them?
Yeah, the main thing is that as, you guys pointed out at some previous meeting, it was possible that what is designed to be a streamlined process for a CUP could still have taken 2 planning and zoning meetings to get passed. And so that was not good. And, so what change I made was to, have our new community development director be the one responsible for determining whether or not it qualifies for low impact CUP. And if it does, then it will just come to us for one administrative decision at one meeting, unless there was some.
So that's line 178, starting.
Good question, when
That's, I know it's.
Well,
Starts at 170, it's underlined, the difference.
are you in the PDF?
16.06, CUP application process, 1, low impact CUP. 171. Yeah. So, our new director of community development slash town manager is sitting at our table. I'd like to introduce him, from our players. This is a planning commission, Karen Stenwell, Mary McCray, you know me, Ken Peterson, and then. Well,
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
you have any other things you want to explain? Are there any changes to permitted uses on this one? No, it seems like, this. This is just to make it more streamlined, so there's just one go around.
If it was just making it more streamlined, I might be able to get behind it, but taking existing permitted uses off the permitted uses rules and requiring conditional uses. I can't get behind, so.
Even though you understand that that is a temporary situation as we create a
Yeah,
standard.
so I think as much time as we spend on this, we could put the conditions on those 4 or 5 uses that we have concerns about. I personally will have to vote to. I will vote to take things off the conditional use rules and create the conditions, that are permitted with conditions. So when somebody walks into the town office, you can ask, add the counter, here's what I want to do, is this permitted? Yes, it says, as long as you do these 6 things, you can do it, all right, now I vote. Now I can go make an offer on that lot, but if it says that you have to have conditional use permit, streamlined or otherwise. It's a hurdle. Probably discourage and policy. Opposed to encourage. So,
Really just one meeting.
is that,
It's really just a nod at one meeting.
if it's low impact, but if it's a,
Right,
so. Are we deciding that those things we're pulling off the permitted list are all low impact? CUPs or,
I'm sorry, I didn't know what you said.
is that?
I couldn't hear you, sorry.
So the items that we're pulling off the permitted use and requiring a conditional use now, are those all gonna be low impact CUPs or?
We could say that.
But again, I cannot get behind it.
About,
So again, I'm agree with Larry, I've asked for reasons why those items were done, substantial reasons why, so we could discuss why we thought those needed to be moved to traditional, why permitted wasn't, appropriate for them. I have not received those for those particular uses, so I couldn't get behind it for those reasons as well. But like the last ordinance, there have been significant changes made to this ordinance since it was last put up for a public hearing. So, yeah, one change, pretty significant change. Whether we agree with it or not, I personally agree with that change, but there was a significant change made and it should be put back up for public hearing before a recommendation is made on this. And that's my opinion.
Well, I did agree with you, the space one,
You don't believe it's a significant change to make the person that decides who, by designating the person that decides who decides if it's a
No, that hasn't changed, that will still come before us, we just didn't, you're from having. Because your concern was having to come before planning commission twice. There was discussion about how to get them done in a timely manner at our last work meeting. And so this was discussed at our work meeting, and there was no mention of it being a significant change at that time, or when we discussed, what's going to go up for public hearing at that time.
I thought the ordinance that was set for public hearing did not include having the, sorry, I forget his title, as the decision maker to whether it was. My understanding was the version that went, if I remember right, the version that went, to public hearing was the planning and zoning decided who, if it was of the version that went to public hearing had planning and zoning the decision maker for whether it went the easy path or the hard path.
Right, and we still are.
and no, we don't decide that, we used to.
We, it's the same as the CUP. We can approve, we can deny, we can appropriate the findings, or we can approve the conditions in consideration of specific concerns or general review requirements. We still have the final say.
Yes, we have to say, but I don't think this makes that much difference, especially since I was told that our new director of community development is actually our boss.
Director of community development. You were just too many words.
It's C.
No, CCD. No,
Director, DCB.
yeah, and then that's the problem, because it in either order.
That's his take on this. Sure. What do you think? Is that a substantial change or not?
Well, so in my experience, I'm not used to having rehearings when there are changes, amendments made. That second hurdle of a significant
change requiring a public hearing is new to me. It's probably based on a difference in state law, I guess. But that's for you all to determine, whether it's significant or not. Typically, so typically the zoning administrator did it, and now it's the community development director. That's probably not a significant change. If that's the case, that's not the case. Or you could state community development director or designee, which I could designate the zoning administrator supervising that position anyway, so we're gonna be working together, so. Not providing a lot of direction here,
That's fine.
it's really your call because you're familiar with this context of rehearings. If there are significant.
I mean, to me, that's not significant enough to require, I don't think the people that spoke on this were terribly interested in that aspect of the ordinance. And, I trust the town council to send it back to us if they think it requires another hearing. Because they've done that before.
They have, the town attorney right there as well.
Right.
Any further discussion other than that? That hasn't already been said. If not, I'll, do I hear a motion?
I will move that we approve, an ordinance amending Virgin Municipal Code Title 16, Chapter 16, make certain currently permitted uses conditional, provide streamlined process for low impact conditional use permits, change the titles of 2 sections to include permitted use standards, and amend the conditional use approval process.
I second.
Lee?
Aye.
Oops, sorry, I should have started then. Kent?
Aye.
Darlene? Aye. Gary?
No.
Karen?
No.
Kathy? Right, item number 4. An ordinance amending Virgin Municipal Code Title 16 by adding Chapter 42, Village Overlay Zones, adopting standards for limited 2-family dwellings into Chapter 8, and adding language to commercial and highway resort zones in reference to the village overlay. Anyone have any further comments?
I have one question on this and whoever maybe leads about, I don't know who's best to answer it. My understanding is, were this ordinance to be adopted, it would, immediately rezone or apply the village overlay to all existing commercial properties, is that correct?
That is what it's written, yes.
So then, my follow-up question would be, was this properly noticed to all owners of commercial properties and to all properties that border commercial? As dictated in, how we, advertise and put out zone changes, because it's essentially a zone change.
It is not a zone change.
It's an overlay and maybe that would be required, I don't know.
And did we do that for the short-term rental overlay? Did you do that for the short-term rental overlay?
The short-term rental overlay did not instantaneously change properties or
I suppose.
was not imposed upon anyone.
When they apply for the short-term rental overlay zone, then we do.
Then we did the.
Then
public
we do it.
hearings, and
But-
it was noticed by those standards.
They have to apply for the short-term rental overlay though.
I couldn't fight for that.
This one's being imposed. And so I think the town would have a burden to properly notice all owners of commercial property and all members of the community that are within 300 feet. of-
Are you forcing this on them or?
That's what she just said.
That's what is, the way this is written, that's what it would do. It wouldn't be voluntary.
I'm just finding it odd that discussions with the town attorney was present, that wasn't brought up.
I've never been at a meeting where the town attorney's been present, so.
Well, this is, I heard all the other 3 meetings, the other 2 meetings with the town council.
We need to get this question answered.
I do agree.
And, I mean, there are a couple of options we could. Pass this as a voluntary reason, but I don't think it would do what it's.
Well, or could we make a recommendation with the condition that it was checked out whether or not it needed that notice, and then we have to go back.
I know, you know,
I don't think that would be sufficient. I think that the notice would have to, if it was an actual, if it was treated just as a rezoning the whole property to something else, then I think that it would have to, allow them to come to a public hearing about it. And notice that.
the notice notwithstanding, that the way I'm reading this, on my particular property, and just about every property fronting the line, my lot would be virtually unbuildable.
That's not true.
It's 179 foot deep lot, I have 150 foot buffer from the residential zone.
No, that's not what it says.
It requires 150 foot buffer along boundaries running approximately perpendicular straight rock line between residential
That
zones.
means within that area.
That doesn't mean you can't build there, it just means there is a list of uses that you can build there based on whether there's a house right next to it or not.
So my 179 foot lot, what could I, and I got 50 foot buffer from the front, 150 buffer from the back, I got a negative 29 foot,
The current,
it's 40 foot,
well, the current, business you have would be an option.
but I can't build on it.
Expand.
Yeah, the whole reason I bought the lot is, the lot we just changed the zone on would be 100% in the buffer. So. You can't put your commercial building in that buffer, then it's a worthless lot, and every zone change creature on the 9 would be a worthless lot.
So you can build, like, if it's 150 feet from an existing residential. Right, that means the types of things, you can't build a full commercial that goes to residential property.
Those probably should be better, worded.
But,
So that means they can't build, so.
no, that's not what it said.
What is the difference between full on commercial and partial commercial? If I wanted to do an outlet,
Smaller, like we don't have a huge business lot there that has a lot of.
but not really do anything. If, all you can do is a 10 by 10 art studio. I mean,
No.
And 2 family dwellings. And,
Or 2 single family, or
two tiny, very small homes.
and I believe we're trying to live.
And I want to add live work as a permitted use in the overlay. So,
so maybe explain what a buffer is as opposed to a setback.
a buffer is a transition zone. It's transitioning from full-on commercial, like,
Yes, well, I'm guessing.
a grocery store, to smaller commercial. And if already built neighborhood is next to it, then to, affordable housing, essentially, small houses and 2 family dwellings. And, it would work. We have that. that will be permitted in that,
In the buffer,
in the buffer.
but what if my lot's only 179 feet, so all I need to do is put a duplex in there, that's my only option at this point? Well, that's commercial.
No,
What if I didn't do the work, I just wanted, like, right now, live work has become conditional again, which is what I worked a year and a half to remove the condition rule, but it's that unconditioned. Now it's a conditional use, so I'm looking at not doing the apartment part of it, just doing commercial buildings. But if I have a 150-foot buffer that I cannot build in,
that's not, no, the 150-foot buffer, you have a permitted live work in, if we put that in there, which is what my proposal is.
which is different than the ordinance the council passed.
That's in, well, yes, no, it's not really, it's just, this is one we used to allow in the overlay, but it's also allowed in commercial as a.
So I just wanted to build a commercial, design and G tours building on that lot. Would I be allowed to build in the buffer?
Sorry, I couldn't.
So if I didn't do the live work and just wanted to build a commercial unit with a tenant to move into that as a Zion G tours, would I be allowed to build that building in the buffer?
Yes, as long as it met the setback.
So what's the use of
Well, every. A buffer
like
is.
build a commercial unit in the buffer?
So the buffer, here's residence, here's the highway, here's 400, right? And this, anything that's within 150 feet doesn't mean you can't live there. It just says they have to be lower impact things. And the setback
That's 40 meters down
from.
from a different zone.
Yeah. It's 40, but in this it's 50, plus 50, that's changeable. So you're, I mean, there's 100, plus 120.
Here's my square. It's 179. Plus the setback.
That's part of the buffer.
Yeah, so I'm double buffer in the middle, can't build my commercial unit to
All of those. All that, it would have named.
But could I just put my commercial building there if I didn't have an apartment?
Yeah.
No, it says right here, right at the top, village overlay zone, residential uses only. So currently, as this stands, if it was passed, he would only be able to do residential units only.
Only within 150 feet of an existing home.
Yes, so when we're talking about his piece, what he's asking about, he could build a residential unit only.
Because all your property is within 150 feet of
I've got
home.
residential zones on two sides of my property. So right now, I've got 40-foot rear yard setback and then 40-foot side yard setback, which really squeezes my building envelope, and right now we have a 50-foot, again, it's called a buffer, but I have a 20-foot setback, so that building that kind of, there's so many what ifs, even without this, there's a lot of what ifs, but,
How big is your?
it's an eight. So 179 feet, 200 wide. So if I was 150 this way, I've got a 50-foot section over here, it's now got a grade that I can't build on, so.
So but there's. I got to look for Washington County now. And we can look at it.
Discussion. Can't we look at this kind of a situation and say, you bought this, these are the existing conditions at the time. Why can't we grandfather that particular or places like that particular? Because of situations before, I mean,
But I think that it ruins 90% of commercial property on the nine. Almost every commercial property on the nine has residential behind them. So if you had 150-foot buffer that you can like put a duplex or a house in, then you would have very few lots you could build on the gas, none of the new gas station that, Black Bison would not have been allowed. What I'm proposing will not be allowed.
I disagree, I mean, I've already written, amendments that would put live work as a permitted use in the overlay and in both the commercial overlay and the residential overlay. And so,
But if I decide not to put an apartment above my commercial unit, then, which I'm leaning that way now because of the fact that it got put back in conditioned use. That was the most expensive part of my project. And now I'm thinking about eliminating it because it's a process that I don't really care to go through. So if I just gonna build a commercial unit, Zion G George's, I could not do it if this passes. And your lot, you would not be able to build anything if it passes other than a house, according to this, or duplex,
so two sides you have homes on?
yes. And even if it was just a backside, I think my lot's probably the average depth on an island.
I don't know, the average, most of them are, yours is not the average, it's very deep, yeah.
What would be the average for all properties that are closer to town, probably?
So, I mean, it looks like this is gonna be on hold, but we should think about maybe allowing some sort of reduction in the size of buffer for
There's an existing
shallow lots.
40-foot lot or setback that I always thought was really limiting my building envelope. But when I saw the 150, I thought, well, they just totally devalue my land. This will totally devalue my land.
Well, think about it though, because it also allows half acre lots, it also allows for small businesses and for subdivision into small lots. And it encourages, small homes and duplexes and live work. What's that in there?
So, I mean, maybe to help, like, clarify it easier would be, what are the uses that can be, what are the uses or what are the things that can be built right now, not with amendments in the future, but right now with this ordinance? What are the uses that would be allowed in that 150-foot setback? Or 150-foot buffer, I guess, how it reads.
Single family home off the top of my head, the smaller single family home. And if it's abutting existing residential, single family homes, single family units and live work.
No, he's talking about existing
Right now,
code.
what's in this right
What's
now?
allowed in the commercial zone.
You know, what's
Well, in this one,
the overlay?
yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
The 150-foot, the 150-foot,
I just said it.
Yeah, okay, what Darlene said is what would be allowed in that, if
So-
it's abutting of, anywhere that within 150 feet of a house,
not really commercial.
correct? Except, unless you consider live work.
Commercial away from the commercial land.
If the intent is to eliminate commercial uses other than boutiques, then
But I know
this is the way to write it.
the intent, of course, is to buffer that, village concept or against residences or residential buildings that can be buffered and they don't have, a, I don't know, what are you thinking you'd like to put there? What was the plan?
So originally, I wanted to put in live work units. And,
Which is acceptable, right?
Yes,
but the version that we wrote got modified by the town, and my whole goal was to take it off the conditional use rules and make it a permitted use with these conditions, so we created all the conditions. And then it went back to now where it's conditional use to do. So if I was to apply today, I'd have to get a conditional use permit to go, but that's been a year and a half trying to remove the conditional use goals. So now we're thinking that, you know, not only is the city or the town not encouraging us to do this, they're kind of discouraging us to do this, so now we're thinking we're gonna eliminate those costs. I'm not sure where tenant will live now, but they'll have to understand that it's not feasible anymore. So if I just wanted to do commercial unit there for him to move his business into, under this new ordinance, I couldn't do that. There's no unbuffered land on my lot.
But you can build.
I personally need a steel trim. I need to go.
Build a little work in the buffer.
But if I just wanted to go with commercial unit and that, I could not. But- Sure,
At this point,
so if I would.
but you could have a little work,
So,
or like you originally wanted, or small house, or two-family dwelling.
Which is not why anybody buys commercial property.
Correct, but, right now, two of the listed uses in our commercial zone that are not listed anywhere else are live, work, and two-family dwelling, or proposed two-family dwelling. So,
Yeah. Even if the project that I'm thinking of would be approved here without conditional use, I still would not vote on this because it eliminates every other use. There's never gonna be another commercial piece of property. We have a 400-foot depth max, 150 that is gone. We got a 50-foot from the front, so there's 200 feet. So obviously, lower parking, your buildings, everything in that little margin. And
So on the flip side of that, if you look at the recent Palmer rezone. This would greatly benefit that land, because that land has a lot, that land goes back almost 900 feet at point. And this would allow them, a lot of use on that land. While at the same time protecting the existing residential. From full, large size commercial things in the backyard. And encouraging some affordable. Yes. So yes.
so one lot benefits from this, but every other lot does not, so.
No, that's not the only one, that was just an example, just like your lot was an example. Yeah.
thanks, so. Where, I think I have to support Larry on this, so. In this buffer, you could build your live work unit, but you couldn't build your actual business. So Larry could build his live work units back, if he didn't already have an existing structure, right? Or an existing business already built there. But say, for somebody that just rezoned, or we were putting in a new project. So you could build, because it says residential use only, you could build your live work units back there, but then you have no place to build your actual business.
No, that's the definition of live work, it's at the same site. Right there, that, yeah.
At the same site, right? I agree with you, at the same site, but not necessarily the same building. Right? Doesn't have to be the same building. And,
Right, but it
and
will
this,
be,
but this says residential use only. That excludes any commercial use, so you couldn't build your commercial aspect. So if I had a
I
lot,
disagree.
so if I was like the Palmers, right, the other. I could build my commercial in the front and I could build my live work units in the back. And that's probably how they would do it on a bigger lot like that. But on a smaller lot where it's all within, or nearly all of it's within that's 150-foot buffer. You couldn't actually build your commercial enterprise there.
Yes, you could, because that's what live work is defined as, is where you have your business and an attached, living.
Live work is defined as residential use only.
I would like to say that you're correct about that, that was the wrong word, it didn't say residential use, it's just.
Okay, and then. And then I'm sorry, but I think I have to correct the chair here a little bit, and I'll try to do it very respectfully. There are not a lot of uses anyone can do within this buffer, like on the Palmer property. There are 3 uses. And
That
that's,
is correct, because
I asked you a few minutes ago, what uses you could do in this live work unit, and you named 3 uses.
but what you're not understanding is there's a good portion of the Palmer that is away from residential, or more than that, and they can have a whole series of businesses there.
I agree, but what was said was the Palmers could use a whole host or a whole bunch of uses on this live work back portion, or on this village overlay back portion, and there's not a lot of uses, there's 3 uses that can be done in this zone.
They could, and that section there, but overall,
There's
Wait.
13 uses.
And we denied there's no change on this level anyway, so.
That's all.
with their condition,
They
they will go 400 feet back, and then they will have a development agreement for the rest.
There are 12 uses,
Do you have something to say?
I do, excuse me. Madam Chair, getting back to Commissioner Spenlow's, comment about Miller's, the city clerk did contact, our city attorney.
Yes.
Would require a,
Yes, I saw that. Okay, good, thank you.
clear that one.
okay, so what if we had a kind of a sliding scale? That would, allow for a little more in the smallest, lots that are left in town, which don't do anything, but, I think it might be good to have a little bit of flexibility there. Because I think when we stood back and looked at all of this, it was mostly considering how big so many of the lots along the highway are, and how deep and also the fact that some of them really do, but not all of them, and not even that many of them, run into single family dwelling neighborhoods, which is something that I really think we should protect.
So the 50-foot buffer that's exists for a 40-foot setback that's existing is adequate, and he had to say, maybe 20 foot over, anything I know would be at least 60. Yeah, 60 feet away from this place, but, and then, the quiet time from 8 o'clock on, there's a lot of restrictions on this. Which I understood, what I originally understood this to be was go around the old downtown where the lots are small.
Super commercial.
Yeah, so.
So, so we continue. We heard again. A public person.
Yes, but we should first, if we want to make some amendments to do that, we should make sure that it's all ready before we,
And that's what we will do now.
try to figure it out by then. I mean, if I'm kind of
Well, we can see if we can find it, and it's not,
okay.
okay?
Madam Chair,
Let's start that.
I'm a real visual person. I suggest that you take, an hour someday, the parties that can here and go consider, examples such as Larry's and see in a sliding scale concept as to how and what might be appropriate and available that would work for that kind of a commercial piece of property. And what might be there other than just residential and on-site.
thinking about it, I think if like Larry's property is like right on time.
Yeah.
And the money that maybe in that situation, you could have the other level of over there, with something there, to go back, that's a lot more options.
Especially considering that it's been commercial, right? It didn't get rezoned. So the people who live on the boundary of that were aware that they were moving into a home.
That was rezoned commercial and then we bought it. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was already zoned commercial.
Yeah, but the one percent had it rezoned commercial and then we bought it.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't really residential.
Well, yeah, I mean, once the restaurant went next to that, it was.
Much of it, that had a big impact, yes. That's one thing I'll. Cause that would be an easy indicator. And I think most of the lots that would be affected by that. Would be
Yeah, I just looked at the zoning map, there's several that would be
affected by that.
affected by the buffer.
Yeah,
Where we basically just create rural residential in, the existing commercial lot, so,
yeah.
uh,
I mean, we could even have it not apply to lots under a certain size.
But as long as residences have some protection as well.
Yeah,
Um,
I really,
I believe in compromise.
I do too, but I also think that people who, built or bought their dream home and it's a single family dwelling on an acre lot. And believed that they were surrounded by rural residential, I think they should be able to rely on that to some degree.
And if it changes that, you know, the reasons they moved here would be some protection, you know?
Yes.
so I just did some quick math, and on my 1 acre lot, 3/4 of an acre would be in a buffer zone. So, a 1/4 acre,
That doesn't mean you can only go 140 acres.
if I wanted to do a commercial unit, that's all I can build on. It's not too commercial.
That's why we were thinking of this other alternative.
And I got-
That's why we love your input, Larry.
Yes, well, and
You know,
I read this, thought this can't be accurate, I must be misreading this
good
because
perspective, all right. So, we're going to move this, not for vote, as it said, discussion and possible vote, and we'll just pick it up later. That leads us to item number 5. I don't think we do, because it says on our agenda that the discussion and possible vote. Doesn't say on your card, we need to go on it. Ordinance number 5. Anyone have any additional comments on this?
notice that the work is actually conditional use, that's all.
But it's not, that we want to talk about that.
I have a list of amendments that I was gonna discuss, but we should do that at short meeting instead, and that's one of them, is to put it in the other. Put it in list for residential area.
That would be useful, especially when we're small enough. It would be a useful thing to have. And it would allow.
Sorry, can you speak up?
I'm sorry, that would be a useful thing to have.
Yeah, for what it's worth, as I mentioned, this, do a sound check in the future. I have to wait 2 weeks to see it on YouTube to hear every word you're saying.
All right,
And you're better than I, because I only heard like every third word. on
we'll
it.
say something.
Thank you.
This ordinance is, an ordinance amending the Virgin Uniform Land Use Ordinance to define two-family dwellings, to allow the construction and use of two-family dwellings in the commercial zone, and to create standards for use in the chapter 16. Any additional comments on this? And we do. You said you have.
Okay. A couple of things about this one, I'm concerned, as I am about the one we just talked about, but this one even more so, that it could, take up a lot of our highway commercial with dwellings. And since I think that we also would like to encourage a walkable small commons area, I think that that would be counterproductive. And I'm also very concerned, of course, as we've talked about many times, that, it's not in the form of an overlay, so we would not be able to have design standards, and there are very little protection for our triggering septic problems and
I have a similar concern about it being in general commercial area. It will take away from full-on commercial area. I'm very concerned with the size, especially when it says we're 12%, whichever is greater. Because that would be over 10,000 square feet in a two-family dwelling on a 2-acre lot. I'm also very concerned that there is no, and because it's not in an overlay, you can't do this, or it's not done here. I don't know if it could be, where there is, if in the case there is sewer, there is a density limit. There's no density limit, there you could have unlimited two-family dwellings. There's no cap. I'm looking at the standards, and that word 48, that A is very concerning to me.
Which one?
4,800 square feet of the area, or 12% of the parcel. So in a 2-acre parcel, that 12% of 2 acres is like over 10,000 square feet.
Is that the restriction on residential right now?
Correct. That's the exact. That's the
And,
exact residential.
A lot of these standards are the standards that we have in the ordinance we just talked about. Putting the single culinary, and I just wanted to clarify that just because you have a single culinary connection, there's nothing there that says you can't have two meters, even though you have one culinary hookup.
yeah, well, also, I mean, I had, you know, my own views on things, rentals that I've had, and it's a lot cheaper than having two hookups. Well, in one building, makes sense to do it that way.
We do have standards, on number of dwellings on per lot. And that is by acreage. And, there's no reference to that, so I don't think there's enough in this ordinance to balance the desire of existing residential to remain existing residential. I'm concerned that in this case, you do have a 10-foot setback. If the party agrees, and I don't think that's appropriate in the residential area. I just have a lot of, I just think it's not enough. One other thing, I would wish that would do more to encourage affordable, well, which, I'm sure that side, the allowed size for Bolton.
I think it's, so if you really want to encourage affordable housing, it's still an acre lot and Virgin is still very expensive. Sewer goes in multiple units on a lot, I don't think you'll ever have truly affordable, it'd be less expensive, it'd be less expensive to get. Yeah, same thing, food and.
That's why this allows, the overlay will allow having.
An acre lot in the overlay,
No, not a duplex,
just
a small house.
Okay, so I do have to agree with you that the standards as written in this ordinance do not sufficiently protect residents. I agree with you. That's because this ordinance is only part of the bigger picture. We're only allowing it in commercial zone. Commercial zones already have its own standards set out in chapter 42. It already has a ton of standards. It has setback requirements, it has open space requirements, it has buffering requirements, it has density requirements. All of that is already in the commercial zone. We don't need to have any additional restrictions to add on to those, in my opinion. So I agree, this is not sufficient to protect residents, but you go to chapter 40, you add all those restrictions that are already listed there alongside these restrictions for duplexes, and then you do have sufficient to get the neighborhoods, in my opinion. And then as far as the size, so my understanding was the biggest concern with duplexes is we don't want them to look a lot different from a single family residence. So you'll see that the size restrictions on there mirror exactly what a single family residence can look like. So that was taken verbatim from chapter 34. And I think 32 is also says the same thing, but that was taken verbatim from there. Yeah, and that's pretty much all I have to add to that. So, I mean, if you have specific concerns, when you add in the restrictions, that are already imposed by the commercial zone, then,
I think our restrictions in the commercial are not adequate. You mentioned open space. And there's mentions about setbacks, and it's unclear, for example, in here, what is considered open space are impermeable surfaces considered open space, and the ordinance is not clear on that. So there's been cases where, asphalt has been counted as open space. And I disagree with that being counted as open space. I see hotel, motel, on 60-foot setback, but I'm looking at a project where there's 10-foot, and parts of 10-foot setback. I would just, the building bonuses would be a dangerous thing on this particular topic. I mean, buffers and landscaping is minimal. So I would have to disagree that they're robust. And I think an ordinance on this new use, we need to be aware of that.
So we think that the duplex is much lower impact aesthetically on residential zoning than a commercial would be. And that those setbacks and open space requirements are okay for commercial use, and that would be, should be okay for residential use. But my concerns on this is that it's almost too restrictive, right? Because as a landlord, you don't typically have to get a business license to rent your house. And I don't have to get a notarized statement signed and recorded saying that it's only gonna, I'm only gonna explaining that I'm only gonna do what's allowed in that zone already anyway. It's like when you get your driver's license, having to sign a notarized note that says, I will not speed, even though that's one of the thousands of laws that we already have to obey. So we have a code enforcement officer now who I hope is enforcing our existing codes. But we should add, well, the way it is, as opposed to the one we passed. I didn't know this was an option when I voted on that one. But I didn't know.
Not vote on that. The duplex, yes, we did vote on that. I was thinking of the other, limited use in Canaan.
And I agree that it should never be used as a short-term dwelling, but
The overlay, we did not vote on.
no, we did vote on the overlay, we voted on a duplex.
We did that. Where?
Last meeting.
Last meeting, I was there.
No, chapter A, we voted on standards. It is part of chapter 8. So, but Larry, I have a question.
Yes.
So, do you agree that the minimum lot size, is an acre in commercial?
I agree that's the way it's written now, yes.
So, we're looking at having an existing home and a two-family dwelling of less than an acre. This would allow for that.
And I don't have an issue with that as long as they can prove they can take care of their waste. But again, we all agree to disagree on that.
Well, and
There are options to take care of it. And if somebody can use one of those options and get the higher density and get the affordable housing that we are all trying to get, then it seems to make a lot of sense to allow that. If they can get rid of the waste efficiently. And the building will be 110%. But to make it different than me renting my house out. I could rent my house and make it a short term rental.
I just see it as like, you say we have these standards and yet we're so easily willing to not hold by them. That's my concern. Because if you're somebody else, and you're going, okay, so I have this piece of land and this commercial. It's only an acre, so they can only do one thing on there. And then it doesn't happen that way. Because it's not clear either in our existing commercial or in this. There are no density limits. And I'm pretty sure our new groundwater study is not gonna be changed much. For one, the equivalent of single family per acre, one area per county.
So just to address a couple of the points you had, right, so, I included the business license in there because this is in a commercial zone, right, so we're only allowing this in a commercial zone. Maybe it wasn't appropriate to add it into 16, maybe all these standards, I think, maybe not should be in 16, maybe should be in 44, and I was going back and forth between that. Apparently I landed on 16, I thought I landed on 44, but apparently I landed on 16. But that's the reason why I kept that in there, because this is a commercial zone, and so it should be treated as a commercial activity. The standard in there for the written agreement is because at some point in the last however long we've been talking about this, one of the proposals was to make, two-family dwellings a conditional use permit, and then they would be required to record against their deed that they would never be short-term rentals. So this was kind of a carve off from that, because I think it's a little onerous to record that against a deed, and so this was kind of that record with the town was just kind of carved out. From that additional discussion that is about two-family dwellings being a conditional use and having that recorded against the deed. So that's why I included that. I'm in agreement with you that code for the shadow, but one extra layer of protection, so.
And I would vote on it the way it is, if, knowing that there's a reason it was put in there, but. I feel like it's already in the law, we didn't have to have them sign a letter that says, I agree to follow the law. When you get your building permit, you're not to follow the law. This is the version of the.
I apologize. All of it gets really confusing for me sometimes. Why are we even considering two-family dwellings in commercial zones?
It was on the town council, wasn't it?
Well, Mr. Lacoste has proposed a project on his commercial land. 0.73 acres, it's where your house is, correct? And he wants to add the two-family dwelling.
It is commercial property.
It is commercial property, it's totally surrounded by residential.
Yeah,
On one side, but all the other sides. He owns,
sorry.
yeah, he owns the two lots or one lot to the.
Well, we're talking about one lot, it is the north,
Very top.
the three house, there's two roads around it, and all be on to the north.
Ever anyone show them up there? Yeah.
Right here, that's it, the little strip right there. That's it. So it's commercial on this side, residential on this side, residential on this side, beyond.
Correct.
So where's up this spot right here?
That's the
Yeah,
other.
so where's the restaurant?
And.
So all the red is commercial.
Correct.
Yes.
But there's houses to the
This is the house,
and the
this
south.
is the house. There, house.
Yeah.
Here.
East and west.
Not a house.
I didn't understand why that was ever commercial.
It's been commercial for a very, very, very long time.
With houses in front of it, and houses to the side of it, residential in front.
Yeah.
Must have been some kind of all one big property and he's included that sliver in there because it was part of the other big part of the red.
Well, there was one time that this property right here. The property right here, this doesn't show property boundaries very well. But there's a property right here, there was a time that was almost used as an event center. I've been to a lot of weddings at that property, it's not Darcy's house. So I've been to a lot of weddings in that house. So that could be why that was zoned, but that's been zoned commercial since I can remember.
I have a hard time understanding why we would want to in any way encourage two-family dwelling in commercial property. I know the landowner wants it that way, wants to do something because it's already commercial, and he wants to put a two-family dwelling in commercial. Doesn't seem to fit. Doesn't rhyme right. Somebody give me a different word so that I feel good about this. It should be in a neighborhood somewhere.
That's why it was put in the village overlay, and it's next to residential.
So tell me how the village overlay then
So,
makes this different for me to understand.
because that part of the village overlay. If you're within 150 feet of the existing residential area, existing residential, like Darcy Towns. Then you have commercial right there. That is a buffer between all uses of commercial. Remember, one of the concerns we hear repeatedly from residents is if you change it to commercial, you have to be comfortable with every use. Both permitted and conditional. So this is an attempt to have a compromise.
Just for Tom,
It's not just for Tom, it's just wherever commercial abuts residential. It would allow him to do something on his land.
do you agree that the two-family dwelling should be in residential?
Rural residential or residential?
Residential.
There's, based on the results of the general survey, there's very little interest in that, so there is some interest in having duplexes or two-family dwellings. And so this was seen as a way to address that, meet some current residents' needs and meet some future developers' needs, while at the same time offering our residents some consideration.
I don't see where I could vote for two-family dwellings in commercial property, because I don't believe it should be in commercial property. I believe it's not commercial. I believe it's residential housing. And so, I mean, if I was Tom, Tom's friend, I would tell Tom to come to me and say, request a zone change and turn this into residential and ask that it be residential and put your two-family dwelling or one or two of them on your residential property that's surrounded by homes. Instead of trying to call this commercial. There isn't, in my opinion, on that sliver, commercial value whatsoever. I'm not the chair,
Okay, so if I could try to answer your question, why I
You
think,
can try and answer for me, but I'll see you.
I'll try to answer this question, okay? Alright, so I think there's a few reasons why we should allow multifamily housing or duplexes in commercial. Okay, one, we already allow single family residents in commercial. So we're already allowing a mixed use in our commercial. And we have since forever, okay? So maybe you can make an affirmative argument as to why we shouldn't have a mixed use. So sometimes I think we get stuck on, we get stuck on definitions, right? So our commercial zone acts more like a mixed use zone than it does a straight commercial zone. So, I mean, if it helps, you'd say, our commercial, it's not commercial anymore, it's now called mixed use. And then it's a mixture of residential and commercial. So we're already allowing mixed use of residents in our commercial zone. So we're keeping the two-family houses to the same standards that a single-family residence is being kept to. So we're keeping that same look. That's what this ordinance does. So why not allow two if we're already allowing one? Right? So I mean, I think we can have the argument in the discussion and the debate about, should we even allow any residents in commercial, and we could talk about that, but we've already decided, or someone's already decided at one point that we are allowing it to be a mixed use and have residents. So why not, my question is, why not then let it be a two-family house instead of a one? Okay, the second reason, in commercial zones, we're already allowing tighter densities with appropriate wastewater treatment. So we're already doing that. That's already being managed by Southwest Department of Health or the state of Utah, depending on size, and now with our new adoption, Ash Creek Special Services District. So our wastewater is already being managed in commercial properties by those entities. So, and we've already allowed higher densities because they manage that wastewater in there. Okay, so it's a good area because it's being, our wastewater is being managed by those entities. It's a good area to allow higher densities without the wastewater study. Or without making major changes and adding a public sewer option to the town. Okay, and then the last thing is, because we do have special situations like Tom's and a few other lots in town, that this may be a good commercial option for them, or a good mixed use option for them to do with their property. When, you know, there may not be other great options for them that aren't just a single family. So I think because of that, you know, our commercial is probably poorly named, it should be named mixed use, and we're already doing it, so why not add this?
So 16806 states every dwelling structure shall be located and maintained on a separate lot, having no less than a minimum area width, depth, and frontage required by this ordinance for the zone in which the dwelling structure is located. This doesn't address that.
This, you mean,
This current,
Cameron's,
the one we're talking about now.
doesn't address what?
16.8.06, every dwelling to be on a lot. Exceptions, every dwelling structure shall be one. The group dwellings or cluster dwellings, if allowed by this ordinance, it talks about, but in general, lot standards. Every lot existing or intended to be created shall have such 16.804, excuse me, width and depth as required by this ordinance for the zone in which the lot is located. Does have that. But we don't allow, cluster dwellings, condominiums, multi-structure dwelling complexes under single ownership, which are permitted by this ordinance, of approval from the planning and zoning. May. But they have to get approval for it from us to do that. I disagree. I do believe there is denser uses on commercial property, but that denser use is offset by the lesser use of water and sewer as compared to a single family dwelling. And, I've seen the PRU charts on that. So like, the CUP we have public hearing on, they have 20 units. Right? But they are, but each of those units isn't the same impact as a single family dwelling. So dwellings where people live, families live 24 every day, all year, have a bigger impact on sewer and water resources. Yes, ma'am.
Again. Wastewater is managed by 3 entities within this town. Or 2 of 3 entities within this town. They will know how to do the calculations. They will know how to appropriately size and appropriately approve an appropriate wastewater treatment system.
So you're saying that kind of what I said about something on a distribution this month and earlier in the meeting, that this will be decided by county waste,
A special service
special
district.
service district, they're gonna say, this is what you can, this is what you can't do. Yeah, that's what I always thought. So,
And all their recommendations and all the decisions they make are based on our wastewater study.
yeah, so is this then basically I'm trying to simplify this for me, the issue of you, it's kind of like, I'm gonna say, you and Lee you both agree we can build a duplex on here, or a 2-family dwelling on here. You want to do it a certain way, that you feel is more simple and doable. She's concerned about the environmental impact and the example being set or something like that. So can the 2 of you talk about your issues and come to a solution so that we can vote on this and let Tom, I want Tom to build a duplex. I think this is a great spot to build one. I think Lee does too, but Lee has concerns.
I have concerns about the size of the lot, and I've expressed those concerns to Mr. Lacoste in the past.
I'm not sure, so you'll have to.
So I'm just gonna take, right? Lee's not the only one that cares about wastewater and the environment. I also care about that. What I'm saying is leave those decisions to the experts and leave the political decisions to the political bodies. If I'm being honest, you know what I think? I think that if Ash Creek looks at his plans and it's in the commercial zone, and they look at his plans and for the density that he wants with his home that's already there and the duplex on whatever acreage he has, I don't think they're gonna allow him to do an approved or a traditional septic system. I don't, but let them make that decision. And you know what all their decisions are based off of? Our wastewater study. Because they understand it better than I do. They understand it better than probably most all of us do. Because that's what they do.
So we all want,
We all want the same things.
yeah, all want the same thing, but I see that there's a strong feeling about how to go beyond just Tom's project to a standard that we can work with in the future beyond Tom's project. And then we had you saying, I wanna work on this project, because you see that it's a good project, and you'd like to get it done and be able to move forward, because we've been, excuse me, messing around with this for a year now. And so, do you see anything? I apologize for.
Well, listen, the reason why,
To which you can come to and say, this works for
The
this, compromise on that?
the reason why I oppose Lee's direction with this, right? Lee's direction is setting a standard in stone that may or may not align with the wastewater study. Because I can tell you in Hurricane, their wastewater study does not allow for a residence with a septic system on a single acre. I think they have to have 7 acres to have a private septic system in Hurricane. That's what their wastewater study says.
That makes sense.
So my direction is, and maybe the wastewater study will come back and it'll say less than that. I don't know. Right? My guess is it's gonna come back fairly similar to our old one. That would be my guess if I had to guess something. But let's just leave it. Let's just leave it to them. Let's just leave it to the study. But let's not be putting these numbers into an ordinance when we don't even know what they are.
So do you have some agreement or just none with the village overlay concept?
I do disagree with the village overlay concept. I think it's essentially creating a new zone. Which I think, in my opinion, is backed up by the attorney's statement of how it has to be advertised. It's creating a new zone that affects an awful lot of people. And it's taking away a lot of uses from people. A lot of uses that I think are appropriate. Along the highway and within a commercial. So I do disagree with the overlay.
Can I just repeat something that I've said before? Can you get close to the mic? I believe that one of the reasons that we are in the situation we're in right now is because we didn't really try and meet out the septic saturation limits around the town. So some uses got approved or came in that was much denser than our study at the time said, which was 1 area greater. But that was, that number was ignored when proving certain commercial uses. And, I think that brought us to the situation, to the point of having to stop all development, until we get sewer. Having that point, it coming toward us pretty quickly. And I think that people with lots, building lots, should be allowed to build houses on them, and not have that right taken away by denser development. I mean, I understand that some places in Virgin might be better for septic than others and all of those kinds of things. I also think that, yeah, we're going to end up with the sewer, and then none of these numbers will make sense anymore. We'll probably have to go through the whole ordinance and rewrite all of the density limits.
No. We've already had 20 minutes of discussion on this, which to me is an indication we're not ready to vote on this. I am still very uncomfortable with the size. I'm comfortable voting in anything that doesn't have a density limit. And I'm comfortable voting on it just in any part of commercial. I agree, maybe we should rethink having residential as an option in the commercial. I'm not sure of anybody who's actually built a commercial property and went ahead and built a house. Up to now, anyway. A lot of Senator.
Just for clarification, this has already been, analyzed and tested by Ash Creek. This property has already had an approved septic, because septic is a big concern. Ash Creek has already approved it, done a perk test and everything. All the entities that Chairman mentioned have approved it, is recorded with my deed, the approval and the contract with Ash Creek. They said, Tom, you're good to go. So in other words, that testing already been done for septic. Plus, my property is more than a half a mile away from the Virgin River and 150 feet above the Virgin River, and it's surrounded by 3 houses and BLM on the north. It's in a residential area, even though it's own commercial. So it's not disruptive. And the reason the town council wanted that, you asked a very good question directly. Would you like a duplex in commercial? And there was a very long, or in residential. You asked that question, Ken, and you didn't get an answer because the town council, Paul Louis, et cetera, they said commercial is the way to go because it is not popular. It's not popular in residential. It opens the door for others. Sorry, I'm taking too long to repeat this, but you hit the nail on the head. Commercial, that's why they said, let's put it in commercial, because it's less density, less dense than other stuff. It's a house, it's a duplex, a lot less dense than other commercial stuff. So anyway, you were there in the meeting, August 15th of last year. And you remember that argument. Sorry to take so long.
Yeah, but at that time, they thought that this was the only thing that was going to be built.
No, they saw the house. They actually, we talked about the house. Well, we could go over that another time, but that's been taken care of. The mayor even talked about that a few days ago. That's not an issue. But anyway, sorry, I just wanted to clarify that the septic is not an issue on this one. It's already been paid for and recorded.
Can I just say that my point about the septic is not, as I was saying, whose land is better for it than who else is. My point is just that it's cumulative. And so we have to be careful what we allow. And, at some point, we will hit a point where the rivers become contaminated. Or is about to be, or I'm sure it already is to a degree, but anyway, it's cumulative. So let's take a thought toward that. And it's fair to have the same number throughout, and what zones.
My preference is to have both versions, be either recommended or not recommended for approval, and send them both on to town council all at the same time. I had hoped to be able to do that this evening. I don't think that's going to happen. No. Cameron,
I'd like to make a motion that we recommend approval of this ordinance to county council.
I say,
Lee? No. And
I have a question.
we're taking the vote right now.
Okay, I abstain.
Darlene, no.
yes,
Yes.
So a tie is a non-recommendation. The next item is an ordinance amending Title 16, Chapter 4, Section 2, to allow town council to consider planning commission to make planning recommendation as a negative recommendation pursuant to state code and to retrieve from planning ordinances from planning commission. Is there any further comment on this item?
I would be okay with it if we gave town council, I mean, if the town council gave us the ability to get an extension for up to 2 months maximum.
And then where would that go in?
Under timely means, item A, the land use regulation proposed by the town council and referred to the planning commission to create and draft the ordinance no more than 4 months from the date of referral from the town council, unless unless town council approves an extension of up to 2 months.
Would you want that on B also,
I mean, B is when they just
and something?
hand us something and they want a number down. I don't know if we need more than 2 months, but if. Just leave it number.
I think that, so I agree with Lee. Actually, I think there should be a provision in there that would allow for an extension. I don't think we even have to put a time limit on the extension. That time limit can be determined by the town council. I think there should be a provision in there, that just allows us to request an extension. I don't think it needs to be a certain month extension or anything like that, just an extension, and they can grant that and give us another deadline, or they can deny it. But I think, right now, I think we should just, my feeling is that we should recommend it as is. And then, ask that we be allowed to revisit that to add and discuss further to add the ability for an extension.
I think we can make a recommendation with. For that modification, with our recommendation. So. Lee, do you want to modify that based on Karen's input?
I kind of feel like it should have a limit. And since 6 months is what code gives the planning commission to send an ordinance to council. Anyway, I thought that amount of time would make sense.
Do we need to indicate that we will request that the town council will approve? Well,
And see, this discussion is why I think that we should just recommend it as is. It's getting late and I'd like to go home. And then we could ask that we revisit it another time to hash out these details.
no, Lee made a.
Did you?
I
No one has made a
She was talking about that.
I was thinking
No,
about
it's-
making a motion, but, Dennis,
Then I suggest we go with what's here and then the town council can change it if they want. It is only a recommendation that we.
Okay.
Seems like it'd
I
be-
think we just approve this.
Third,
I was just gonna say, it seems like it'd be in their best interest if they sent it to us. If we didn't get it done, in a timely fashion, we asked them to extend the time, they say no, and what they would send to us to get approved is dead, so. It seems like they would say
no,
yes,
just take it as a recommendation.
It's negative recommendation.
but they can still.
Correct.
I second the motion.
Did you make one? With the language included?
No.
Just as this thing. Okay. Sorry. All right, so that was me. None, none. Karen?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
Ernie?
Yes.
Yes.
And we,
Yes, yes.
before we close the meeting, I just wanted to, address the fact that on the public hearing for the additional use permit, our zoning administrator was unable to attend tonight. And the report we received in our file is incomplete for our code. And, asking for a motion to continue the public hearing on this one item, the CUP plug, until, for 3 November 12th. So this will allow us time to receive the information and will also benefit the applicant because they will not incur any additional expenses during the hearing.
I so move.
Madam Chair,
We have a motion.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
before we make the motion, just as a general rule, we need to reopen the public hearing. Because we're making a motion on the item of the public hearing.
Thank you. So we have a motion to close public meeting and public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Aye. Right. Do we have a motion to continue the public hearing on the CUP for unplugged until through November 12th for the reasons previously stated? We have a motion for that.
So tonight was, just a meeting or two, but tonight was the first time I even heard of it, when it just, the title of our, just, there was no information, I had no idea what unplugged even was, then I get a letter from.
So we had 2 items in our SharePoint folder. We had, the Washington County map and the whole to 9 points.
Well, the guy that we need to.
So can-
Sure.
No,
I didn't share one. Can you repeat the motion when
we're going to continue and ask for a motion.
I move we continue the, public hearing for the CUP for unplugged until the next, planning and zoning public hearing on November 12th. I confirm that.
Second.
Lee?
Aye.
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 I guess.
I move we close the public hearing and open the public meeting.
Second.
Aye.
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 I move we adjourn.
Second.
Anybody in favor? Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
All right, well, hey, you know, you need to have something once to do.
I know, so I had some meetings one side and one. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's pretty, it's like, well,
Yeah, I remember you had that, put that out. I already figured that out.
I think so.
Already done?
I thought you were trying to, I should have.
That's why you say you have to see properly.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Oh, that's so. So we are.
We have here to be able to.
Oh,
You want us to go over the